westbound ramp, on-ramp is going to be closed tonight from 8 p.m. until tomorrow, 5 p.m. They're laying storm pipe across that ramp. So that's sort of an immediate update. As far as moving forward, March or April, they will start paving ramps, the new ramps on the west side of the project. So that's the westbound on-ramp, the one that they're closing tonight, and the eastbound off-ramp. They'll also be constructing the retaining walls on the east side of the project, on the newer side of the bridge. May, they will open the bridge that they've been currently constructing for traffic, and they will divert all traffic to that bridge and start demolishing the existing bridge and rebuilding it. July and August, they will relocate the Exxon driveway. The new driveway will go through the mall and come out at the main intersection of the mall drive. And that's a TDOT standard. They only allow access points in a certain proximity to the interchange. So that's just one of the driveways that will be relocated. The rest of them, Waffle House, State Farm, those will happen toward the end of the project, which the project completion date is May of 2017. He told me they are about 2 months behind schedule, but that is better than it was several months ago. They were 4 months behind, so he feels confident that they will be able to catch up and be completed by May of 2017. So one other thing about that project, Huff and Puff Road, as you know, will be closed, a cul-de-sac on each end. That will happen towards the end of the project as well. They want to leave that option open in case they need it to divert traffic for any reason. So that's what I have on I-40. Are there any questions on that?
That one. On the Exxon station, part of the approvals, over a year ago, improving that station included the access road. And there were very few improvements at the time. I understood that approval expired. Did that also expire for the roadway?
Well, the approval was extended by the planning commission when it came back with designs for the building. As you remember, they didn't have any plans to upgrade the building at all initially. They came back with a full plan to bring in stone and complete the facade, the building, and the canopy. So when that happened, they extended the approval, so the access would still be tied to that.
Okay, I didn't know that was reviewed again. I thought it was going to get looked, but that's fine. So it came back and it was.
So that is still active at this time.
Okay.
Yeah,
when did that come forward for review?
You know, David,
I don't have the exact date, but about 3 months ago, thereabouts.
and that would always be good for a year.
Right. Okay.
And they're planning to start their improvements prior to the July, August is sort of their dead-end date to have their improvements done, Exxon's improvements done. So they'll be starting probably in the next couple of months, I would assume.
And we did, TDOT say while they're 2 months behind?
Well, it's the contractor that's 2 months behind. It's probably weather delays, I would imagine, is probably the
We
reason.
had great weather.
What? The rain, without the rain and cold, I mean, they can only, when they're pouring concrete, and they have wet weather, they can't do a whole lot.
Yeah,
Because TDOT has certain regulations, you can't pour below a certain temperature.
yeah.
You can't get asphalt below a certain temperature. So they are restricted this time of the year, but the weather's getting better, so they feel certain they'll be able to catch up and meet their deadline.
I thought they would have planned or something like that though. I mean,
Yeah. And they expect to be on the completion date, which is May of 2017. So, most projects kind of teeter-totter on, sometimes they'll fall behind and they can catch back up. As long as they meet the completion date, then there's really no
did they get a
problem.
bonus for finishing early or?
I'm not aware of one, but I haven't reviewed the contracts with TDOT and Bell, which is a general contractor. I haven't reviewed it, so I'm not, but I haven't heard of one.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move on to Huff and Puff Beverly Rivera. That project, the NEPA environmental approval had expired. So we have gotten back with TDOT, AQH resubmitted to TDOT for that approval to occur, and they're in the middle of that. We're just waiting on the Corps of Engineers to get their report back, and then that will finalize that approval. So they expect to bid it in April or May, and it's approximately 1 year for construction.
For the new Canada Road?
That's Huff and Puff Beverly Road.
Huff and Puff Beverly
Yeah.
Road, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Any questions on that project? Okay, New Canada Road, right now we're in right-of-way acquisition. We have 14 tracks left. Croft and Associates, which is our right-of-way agent, they're working with 3 of the tracks to reach agreements. The Sisson & Sisson is the closing, or real estate attorney. They are closing on 2 tracks, and they're forwarding 2 to Wiseman Gray for condemnation. Wiseman Gray has 7 tracks, 2 are in negotiations, 3 are potential condemnation, and 2 are already in condemnation. So 14 tracks left. We expect maybe another year or so to complete the right-of-way acquisition. As you know, we put in for utility coordination monies for 2018 in the new tip. We haven't gotten that approval yet. They have not put out what the new projects in the new tip are, but I expect that we will probably get that. That will include us working with Texas Gas and MLGW as the major utility players, entering into agreements with them, getting their engineering done, and then the construction of those utilities. So that's probably a 1 to 2 year span. So we'll look at road construction, applying for funding in 2020. And it's about a 2-year construction project. So are there any questions on New Canada Road? The flood mitigation grant, which is the Higdon property, we are still waiting to get final review from FEMA. There's sort of a 2-phase process. They have a programmatic review, which is passed. It's now in the environmental review stage, and we expect it to be completed hopefully this month. It's drug on a little longer than we expected, but the state mitigation office feels like we'll have it back this month. They will send a packet to us that will tell us how to proceed as far as entering into a contract and getting the Higdons paid and them being able to go in and get relocated and us taking the house down. So that's still in FEMA's hands. And finally, the IH Park improvements. The terracing and overflow parking are in design. We have Dalhoff Thomas, which has done a lot of work at IH Park in the past. They are doing the construction plans for us to bid out in March, and the construction will be mid-April. The IH Rec Room also had to go to design, so HUH is handling that, and we expect the same bid in March and start construction in April. Sort of our timeline. Any other questions about any projects?
New Canada Road, before we enter the construction process on that, we have a certain period of time, what is it, 18, 15, 18 years?
I mean, as far as
Before you enter the construction process, we're in the land acquisition, before you enter construction, if you want to, in order to not lose the grant, you have to initiate construction. It's an extended period of time, right?
Right. But when I checked with TDOT about that rule, she said, yes, that is technically the rule, but FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, will come in and start looking at pulling funding if there's no activity in 12 months. And their definition of activity are pay request.
Okay. That's the first we heard of that.
Right.
Okay.
But I talked to the lady at TDOT that is over the project, and that's what she told me. She would not advise us going longer than 12 months. So we've kind of, with this schedule, we've sort of spanned it as long as we could, and it's really, utility coordination will really take probably the 2 years, as well as the right-of-way acquisition, so.
And I don't see any need to really let it linger on. It's festered long enough, so.
Yeah. We definitely don't want FHWA to come in and start questioning the funding and pull that, because that would not be a good thing. So.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. So, good presentation, Commissioner Shaw. Anything for anyone? No. Thank you.
Yeah, next update on MLG&W and the tree cutting that they've done. And we've heard from a resident calling it the chainsaw massacre that occurred not long ago. We're working on cleanup now. I met with Keith May, he's the forester over MLGW that oversaw all the tree cutting and cleanup. I met with him when we did a drive through the city, looked at all the different areas on the condition they left it in. We looked at some good areas as sort of a base level expectation of what we would expect going forward. And we looked at all the other ones. So he's bringing his crews back out. He followed up with me 2 days ago, said he's back out within the next week or so, week and a half to get started on these areas. And then he'll be working, and I'll be in communication with him. I also got a follow-up call from Jerry Collins earlier this week, just making sure that we were getting taken care of, and I said at this point we are, so I appreciate that follow-up also from him. So I'll keep you posted as I know when I know when they're getting in town and starting that process, but it should be a week and a half, and they'll get started back again.
How about like the trees that, they're the stumps, not the stumps where they just cut it off at fence level, but like the big trees that they just cut off and there's just the bark part of the tree.
Yeah, they're gonna take those down. Yeah,
Okay.
there's several on seed tick, it's probably the ones that are
Yeah.
most noticeable.
I mean,
They went
it's
through
really
it.
horrible.
Yeah, he said his guys should have got that first time through, so they're gonna take those down. They do have some issues that the trees are on private property, but most of them on that stretch right there, right on the edge of the right of way orient, so he plans on taking them down.
Yeah, because it didn't make any sense because they trimmed behind them
Yeah.
and left the, the big trunk bark out there, so.
Yeah, and again, we'll be in communication when they're out there, so if they do bypass one, they'll come back and get it for our request, so that's in progress. Litter control. I have a presentation on litter control. As we know, we have a problem. I know it's got a lot of interest lately, so we want to dive into this. I heard it called sort of emergency status, and I think that's pretty close to true. So what I've done here is developed a 4-part plan to address the litter problem that we can work through and talk about, and over the next few months we can talk more about it and implement some of these. Some things are being implemented, but I want to go through this and talk about the plan. So 4 parts. I believe these 4 parts are the major components from collection, actually physically out there collecting trash off the ground, enforcement, using our code enforcement ability to go after private property owners who have a litter problem or contributing to the litter problem, partnerships, and I'll go into what I mean by those, and then finally education, which is another component. So these 4 components, I believe, encompass everything we'll need going forward. Talk about litter collection. Right now, as you know, we have 2 part-time employees that do nothing but collect litter. They're part-time, they work 20 hours per week, so 40 man-hours per week collecting litter. We have 19 segments of road throughout the city that we collect litter on. These were picked based on, these have a regular accumulation of litter, so ongoing. It's not a couple things here and there. These are the segments of road that continually are littered. So if you don't do anything with it, it's going to keep on growing and growing. So we identified 19 segments of road, that's almost 38 miles. Based on our 2 guys right now and based on their experience in the rotation, we're on about a 26-day rotation right now to get from 1 to 19 before we start. And that's way too long, of course. So, but that's where we are right now with our 2 guys. So how are they doing? Well, for the 2 guys out there, they're doing pretty good, and we've shown a lot of improvement in the amount of trash we've been collecting. So right now, and bags is a little tricky. Right now, we're collecting on average 87 bags per month of trash. Now, that doesn't include all the other stuff that doesn't fit into a bag, and I listed these down here. For example, they pulled a tool out of the ditch. We're at 161 auto tires. We've had tractor tires. You name it, it's down there from TVs and everything else. I'm not sure if they're working TVs. They're not working anymore, I'm certain. So 87 actual bags. I use bags on this chart to compare it to what we were doing when we had an organization helping us out. Clean Memphis, they were coming out and they were averaging about 28 bags per month. Looking at the man hours based on the number of people they had and the time they spent, you can see the bags per hour is drastically increased now under our current 2 guys. Now, the 2 temporary employees are surely not meant to be the solution to the problem, but they are aiding and helping. I have some ideas on how we can even improve their efficiency coming up, so that's how they're working right now. Other litter collections going on in the city, we have Adopt the Street. We currently have 5 segments of street that are adopted by either an individual or a neighborhood organization, and they're required to go out 4 times per year, once per quarter, to do a collection on their segment of street. And as you know, we also have the KLB that's out there. They do 2 monthly pickups on their own, and they will continue that and grow that coming up with our new KLB board that we'll be getting. Also, we have specific events for the Great American Cleanup and other special cleanup events that happen throughout the year. But this is all litter collection that's happening now in the city. Some things that we plan to do and can do to improve what we're doing now. First of all, we talked about 19 road segments that we're currently collecting on. We plan to reduce the number of those, or at least hit some. For example, these that are listed up there now are ones we could back off and not do every cycle, do every third cycle possibly, so we have more focus on the main thoroughfares through the city. Also, some of these have houses that are on the road, so even though there's some litter that collects at the street, they are near at least residential properties, and we do expect property owners to take care of areas in front of their homes in a lot of cases. So we can pull some of these off the cycle, which will decrease the 26-day cycle into a much more manageable cycle. The litter vacuum, we talked about this last year. We actually have it included in the budget for this year, which will increase the speed in which they can pick up litter. It's a device with a hose on it. They get down into the ditches and vacuum up litter as they go down the street. Right now, they're just on foot with bags. So that would increase. The problem is, and the reason why we haven't jumped on it yet, is to do this, we'd be blocking a lane of traffic, which requires flaggers. So just bringing the vacuum truck in by itself, while by itself would improve what we're doing, the other things going along with it would hurt the efficiency. So that's something we need to work on.
You don't think Davies Plantation is the main thoroughfare?
It is, but it's in a developed area, mainly. So, now again, we're not going to completely ignore it, but there is, houses around there we believe we can, and we'll talk about an ordinance in a little while here, on other ways we can help those type of roadways pick up trash instead of dedicating city resources on a regular rotating basis. But it is a thoroughfare for sure. So if we can work out the efficiencies on the vacuum truck to be able to help us, that will be a good thing. Now, certain roads we can use it no problem. When we get into a curvy situation like Seatick Road, for example, you'd have to have flaggers to keep our grass safe. KLB and Adopt Street, I believe there's room for expansion there. In fact, one of the charges of the new KLB as written in the ordinance is to grow a volunteer base. So right now we do 2 collections per month. We usually have a small number of people. I'd like to see us expand that so we have more volunteer participation in these projects. And they can hit roadways, hit parks, hit other areas as well, but really expanding that volunteer. Also going further with our Adopt a Street program, getting more segments adopted and more collection through that. Also, I think with our commercial business owners, we have 2 ways of targeting them. One, I think we start with the Civic Pride campaign, get them involved, get active, be talking to them routinely, talking about their sites. And we have some troubled sites, gas stations and whatnot, with a lot of litter that collects from the parking lot. I think partnering with them to start will be a big benefit, create that civic pride. Beyond that, we have code enforcement. Obviously, it's on private property. If they're not on their own collecting the litter off the property, we can go towards them, at them with enforcement activity. I'm sure Judge Potter would like to meet those folks that don't want to pick it up on their own. Enforcement. Later on the agenda, we're going to have a discussion about a possible ordinance. So this is one that was suggested by one of our residents, Colonel Holcomb, who talked about adopting an ordinance that's similar in fashion to what we do with sidewalks currently. Our sidewalk rule is the property owner adjacent to the sidewalk is responsible for maintaining that sidewalk, even if the sidewalk is within the public right-of-way off their property. It's in our code. We enforce it. We actually send a lot of letters out. A lot of folks are fixing the sidewalks that are in disrepair. Using that concept, we turn it towards litter, where litter in front of your house would be your responsibility to take care of. Now, it's a little different than sidewalks. Let's say, for example, in a developed neighborhood where you typically have sidewalks, litter is less of a problem than where you have unoccupied property. So if you're in a neighborhood with a sidewalk, typically folks go in their mailbox. If they see a fast food cup on the ground, they're going to pick that up. But if you go, say, on Huff and Puff Road where you have an unoccupied property, that's where folks throw their junk out the windows and it sits there. The adjacent property owner isn't aware, doesn't come by and check it out, or doesn't care enough to go by and pick up that litter that's out there. This ordinance will give us some authority to go to them and mandate that they pick up, or at least help pick up the litter in front of their property adjacent to the roadway. So that's one way through enforcement. We'll discuss that later on the agenda as far as the ordinance. The Tennessee litter law is strong. The big thing of the litter law is usually catching people in the act of littering, which is pretty difficult to do. I know a lot of our roadsides, like Huff and Puff is the example again. It's nighttime, people are going home, they toss them out their window, nobody sees it, nobody sees them, it's tough to do. We do check the ground and the litter we find, if it's a receipt with a name on it, an envelope with an address on it, we can, under this law, hold them accountable for that litter. They could say, well, it wasn't me, it must have been the trash truck or something. But the litter law says that we can go after them and hold them accountable for that litter that's on the road. So we do check that occasionally, and sometimes we'll find an address or something with the litter. But utilize that law and again, use the resource of Judge Potter to help us with that. Another one, we have several known dumping sites in town. This isn't your typical throwing trash out the window. This is dropping a couch off at the end of a dead end, something massive, unloading your pickup truck with all the excess carpet from renovation that you have been doing. They're out there. We're going to purchase security cameras. There's several locations here. I'm going to start with 2 in our current budget as sort of test areas. And what these would be sort of like a trail camera, deer camera, that'd be infrared, LED, motion lit, that would take pictures and or video. So if somebody, at a dead end, say at the end of Beverly or Rivera, which is one of our known dumping sites, if a vehicle passes that camera, it goes on, we can see what's happening there, and then we have that evidence against a potential violator of our dump. So I'd like to start with 2 areas. Here's some of them right here that we could choose from. The other test site for that very picture.
And they have those now that will send pictures to your camera. It's a
Yes.
fairly inexpensive fee, monthly fee, and they'll send pictures to
Yeah.
your cell phone. Or
Exactly, it's all cellular based, and yeah.
So they're a little bit more costly on the front end, $100 or so more.
Mhm.
But the monthly fee isn't that bad. And
Still very affordable.
very effective.
Mhm.
Should we still have our dumpster out back?
Yes. Yeah, out back at City Hall? Yes.
So any resident can come by there and just dump in there if they want to.
We don't, it's not generally open to the public. We talked about that before, about making it available. I think it's still an option to do. I'm not sure if that'll cut down on what folks want to do at the end of their driveways, because, we have a kind of a yard waste container back there, and we have basically for yard waste and construction debris we keep back here. But your general trash, we could get a dumpster, open it to the public, but as of right now, I think catching the perpetrators here and send a message will go a long way. If we get one person on camera, I think that'll go a long way. I would expect we to publicize it.
Give an example, I've got an umbrella I want to get rid of. Can I bring it here and dump it out back?
Well,
I mean, like a long umbrella.
Great American cleanup.
yeah, that's a good one. At our community cleanup day, that's a perfect item for that we have in May and November every year at Winter Results Park. Those kind of items are perfect for that. We actually bring the dumpsters out to the park. You come and put your stuff in. Yeah, great suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now, that's the avenue for that. Unless you want to do it, call it.
What are these for? Because I thought these, these are yard waste, I know.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were just open to the public that wanted to drop yard waste off, and I know we covered in our contract, when we were talking about our contract, the yard waste and the actual solid waste, they go to the same place.
That's correct.
And so, you can put your trash bag in your grass can, and they're gonna go to the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really no different. So if he wanted to put his umbrella in that canister out there, that trailer, it's going to the same place anyway.
Oh, yeah, it will go to the same place. We just haven't opened up to the public this,
I didn't know that, and I guess I violated the rule. I had an old wooden swing set that I cut up into pieces and put it in a container out there, thinking that's what it was for. So, shame on me, true confessions or whatever, I guess here. But I thought that was for that type of way.
Well, and honestly, we prefer that than dumping it out in a ditch somewhere. So,
That'd be great PR for us. Me dumping that out in the ditch. But
we have a trail camera back there.
Yeah, I didn't intend to break the rules. I thought that was what we had.
That's exactly where it can go. We just don't open up to the public generally, or publicize it. And we could start a program like that. We, incur additional hauling costs. So I would anticipate more being dumped back there.
Maybe I don't understand why it's back there then.
Yeah, I thought that we said that if you checked in through the front there and identified the sheriff, and it was dump anything you want to back there, as long as it would fit in.
was discussed, we never implemented that system. It was discussed as part of that contract, as I think one of the alternatives to doing every Friday yard waste. You know, it was one of the.
Then my question is, why are we storing their containers on our lot?
Well, we use them quite a bit for public works activities. So we generate a lot of debris. And,
So they're being used by.
oh yeah, they're used quite a bit.
And is that where they bring the trash and they bring?
Yes. Yeah, we weigh and put it back there. So yeah, no, we do use those for city purposes.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, education. We do a better job of showing what we're doing and showing the consequences of litter, especially if we start a robust civic pride campaign citywide. I believe this will help. So articles, publish a litter hotline more prominently, get on our website, get out there to the public. Partnering with Lakeland schools would be important. I talked to Dr. Horrell about, we're talking about ways that we can get into the schools and provide literature and other presentations on litter. I know most of us, when we were kids, I think remember litter presentations, and it stuck with us back then. So getting to the elementary school will be key. Signage, we're in the process of designing a sign that will go up around town on a lot of our roadways. You see an example of the stop litter. Some cities customize those to, like, I know Bartlett's had enough on theirs. Other ones, Emily's actually designed a great sign that we're having designed right now. It would be great. I believe it's Lakeland is not your dumpster campaign. It's a pretty clever sign. So we'll have those designed. We'll present them to you before we get them, but we'll put those around just to identify that we are acknowledging, you know, we want to be litter free if possible. So signage would be important. Partnerships, I talked about Adopt a Street earlier. I actually have a map here kind of showing where we have them. So center part of the city, generally the CTA corridor and Beverly Rivera going this way. All the colored segments are adopted. Each color represents a different person or organization. So that's what we have adopted now in this part of the city. We also have one segment in North Lakeland on Stewart Road, starting at Palomino, going up 385. That's also adopted. So as you can see, even from this part of town, there's a lot of street segments that could be adopted. I talked about expanding what we're doing now and do a better job marketing the Adopt a Street program and following up with the Adopt a Street. Obviously, there's a lot of roads that could be adopted, even in commercial areas too. I think businesses could be a part in this as well.
How about like Boy Scout troops and
Absolutely.
Girl Scout troops, stuff like that?
Absolutely. We've also talked about extending to an adopt a spot. It's not really necessarily a street, but like the Saskatoon meeting, for example, could be a spot that somebody could adopt. There's other opportunities too. We found with Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, they typically don't like doing road segments because of the safety factor, but if they had a spot to adopt, either in a park or a meeting, something like that, or something smaller out of the way, might be more appropriate. But yeah, those opportunities are out there. With KLB, we talked before about expanding the volunteer base. I think that's going to be a key part of the KLB and really try to recruit more people to get involved in the community, especially as part of it. KAB has great grants out there. We get for supplies and signage now. We can keep on working on those and expanding those. Another one. And businesses we mentioned earlier, I think approaching them at first as a civic pride campaign, join in with us, let's make the city look great, and then beyond that, go to the enforcement step if they don't choose to participate in the civic pride portion of it. And I believe that is it. So a lot of things in play here that we're working towards. I know KLB has been an integral part of this, and they will continue to move. Any questions on the litter?
Yeah, I've got a question. How are we going to know if this is working? I mean, these are all great ideas. I mean, if it actually works, so people actually do what we're asking them to do. But how are we going to follow up to make sure that it's working? I mean, something like our projects report is a good tool for the commissioners because we can follow from start to finish if it's working or not. But and again, all these ideas are great, but how are we going to know if it's actually working or not?
Great question. So I think the ultimate goal is to be virtually litter-free. You know, and I think that would assign probably a date by which we would like our city to be virtually litter-free. It can't be completely litter-free, it's going to happen, but virtually. And what does that mean? We'll have to define that. KLB, when we first got going, and Commissioner Gaelic was involved in this part, doing a community survey, going out there and actually measuring, counting litter and trash at certain locations around the city. I think having those on a regular basis, you know, I think that is getting good metrics. doing surveys probably at least annually, if not more often. And then also general perception, if you drive down the street, if it looks good or bad.
Sure.
I think in having surveys out there, even in the community, what do you think of the city's effort to control litter? Is it getting better? Is it staying the same? I know the perception right now, it almost seems like it's getting worse, but the stats show that our guys are collecting 4 times as much as we used to. So what does that mean? Again, it goes to that point of, well, is it working or not?
Yeah.
So, great question.
So how often do we use the vacuum? Do we have the city vacuum? How often is the vacuum? Is it daily, all day, every day, or?
No, we usually use the vacuum for stormwater issues. So I know you sent some pictures today, like leaves, by a storm inlet. We'll suck those up, but a lot of times it's cleaning out ditches, for example, clearing out our stormwater system. The vac that we have, it's got such a big hose on, you can't really use it for litter. It collects everything else around it.
Yeah.
They make the special litter vacs with a smaller hose on it. They collect just the litter and not all the debris and everything else along with it. But
Yeah.
now, Emily, how often do we, how often we use that vac truck right now?
I mean, every week. During the fall, we primarily, fall and winter is when we do our ditch clean out and storm sewer clean out. And so they're using it to collect leaves and debris out of mostly roadside ditches, but sometimes inlets and things too. So, I mean, right now they're using it weekly, several days a week.
So is it a manpower problem that we don't use it more often? I mean, why aren't we using it every day?
Well, as you said, right now we're using it every week, so I would assume virtually every day during the week, or almost every day,
That's what I was wondering.
for storm, I guess for storm purposes.
So it is being used every day.
Well, every week for now, for sure. So this time of year, what she's saying is, when the leaves are falling, they're doing a lot of ditch clean out and stormwater system clean out, so, right at this time of year, about every week.
Okay. So I've mentioned it to you once before about Fletcher Trace, as far as the easy cleanup to use that vacuum all along Fletcher Trace. And I just think it needs cleaning up, especially that part of the city. It's an older part of the city and tends to get dirtier. And I think that they have a lot more civic pride if we have that street cleaned up.
Sure. Yeah, we'll make sure that's in the rotation, go down and take a look at it,
Okay.
and take care of it.
Okay.
I have some questions that aren't related to that, but they're city manager's questions. I called Alan Johnson today because I just was trying to find out when the logo sign or the city gateway signs are gonna go up, and he said everything's been changed. So can you tell me, he said that he was aware that we were now giving the diagram to somebody else and having something new made?
No, we have to take the rough drawing that he did and get construction plans made,
Okay.
so that's being done right now. So they're all based on that exact design.
So when is the target?
They're in design now, we're going to bid that out. Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can begin construction within 60 days. We may just get that first one, like on Canada Road. That may be one that we can do right away, and then work together again.
So about May?
I'm hoping, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Which leads me to my next question, the reason I called him, because the medians, I do not understand why the medians still look like they do. I mean, I know we put sod in, but, I mean, I personally got a grant. I know that it was for the medians, and we did put sod in and apply it to that, but really, that's not what I presented when I presented the grant. And, I mean, I kept hearing that it was gonna happen, and it never happened last year. And I really wanna know when we're gonna finish the medians. And you were with me. One of the things at Keep America Beautiful, Keep Tennessee Beautiful luncheon this week, I mean, that's the front porch to your city. And granted, we put sod in, but it still looks like, you know what? I mean, we need to have that done.
I've got the same frustration as Commissioner Gallup that was we had a big brouhaha last year. I think everybody still remembers that we were saying move this done, we want it done now, and that was last year, and the Canada Road is still, I mean, to me, I'm wondering about the same thing. I mean, when are we gonna finish that thing? We just keep talking about it. I'd like to see something.
I don't see it on the project list, and I want to know.
No,
what it's
sure. Well, he's definitely, we have two portions remaining now. We have the skinny tips, well, really, that's the one portion left, the skinny tips and median. The sod, I don't know if you're talking about the sod is looking bad, and
No,
the sod
the
portion looks
sod's
great.
fine, I mean, it's
Okay.
fine. I'm talking about the unattended areas that
Sure.
just look like a bunch of dead bushes
Sure.
or thrown here and weeds. I mean, especially now since things have started to bloom.
Mhm. We have, this, for the skinny medians, we have two separate projects we're working on. One is with Tony, our landscaper. He just gave me, we met 2 weeks ago, he gave me the new quote. He's going forward, he's scheduling work right now for the one, and what his project's gonna be, the long skinny median near Saskatoon that kind of winds back and forth. The only one that doesn't have a wide part, but skinny part, and he's designed a landscape plan for that, and he's gonna implement that one. And that should be happening in the next probably 30 days or so. The other ones, we're gonna go back and take the existing bushes out that are still there, the few that remain, and sod those tips. So based on the budget we had in the grant, you know, that's what the money allocated for, or allowed us to do. So when those two items are done, the grass will come in as soon as the sod starts getting cut again here in the next few weeks. So I would expect in the next 30 days, we'll have the skinny tips done. In the future, when we decide to do more and want to allocate more money to it, we can, you know, spruce up some of those tips if you want to with more landscaping and what. But again, what we'll end up with now is a nice clean look. It's going to be clean, it's going to be good. Tips are going to be done, sodded in most cases, and a nice landscape treatment on the long skinny one in the middle.
And they're gonna edge them, or is it just gonna?
Yes.
I mean, and then we have landscaping that will be around the city, and they'll take some of those trees out going up to
That's correct.
them.
Mhm.
Okay. The other thing, I heard that we missed out on another grant opportunity for an edge grant. Is that true?
No, we submitted an application a week ago Friday. Actually, I'm sorry, this past Friday. We submitted an EDGE grant for marketing materials to market the city. That is with EDGE now. We made it, I worked with Jenny Dunn on that to get it done, so it is active.
Okay. So that, where are we on the fire study?
The fire study is in place, and this will come up a little bit with the PFM item later on the agenda tonight. We've looked at the fire study, we know the cost, what it's going to be, and it will be the study that was done originally by Chief Wolf for an independent fire department. That is the study we're going with their known costs at this point. And the key is going to be planning our financial capital needs for the foreseeable future, and that will be implemented in that. So we'll have to find a target date, target time frame for working that in. And again, that'd be part of the PFM study we talk about later. That's one of the main reasons for that.
Okay. I just see a lot of stuff that's talked about and then it kind of falls to the side, so. Promotion, are we doing anything at the city to help promote the Lakeland bike tour?
Yes. There's actually a lot of marketing materials that Alan has been talking about. We need to talk about budget because, you know, when we started this project, we had no money allocated for it. So through sponsorships and other means, we will be helping us some, the most we can.
But
Yeah,
it's
marketing
got
materials.
sponsors, but I mean, is the city going to post it or do anything and try to promote it?
Oh, we are already. We posted out there in all our media. We've been doing that for some time now.
And then lastly, I don't even know if we can do this, but I know one time we talked in I think a KLB meeting about internet, and I'm very concerned with all these new subdivisions coming in. They need internet. How can we get that done? Because the Grove, I mean, those people didn't have any internet when they moved in there. You know, who wants to pay $500,000 for a house and you can't get any internet? So, how do we do that?
We didn't have a discussion about that. I think, you know, how far can we push it? And that's the question. I don't know how
This-
we can require to go in.
Yeah, and these would probably be good topics for the manager to follow up with, you know, individually, if we can get him an email on all those. Everything we got there, we got a pretty heavy agenda in front of us, so I don't want to cut you off, but that's.
No, that would be into the questions, but I also think that these are relevant for people to hear because they have questions. So,
Certainly.
Right, one question. Where are we on the budget? Like 20% finished or 30, 50%? Or where are we as far as working on to get the budget? I mean,
Next year's budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to comment on that, but yeah, we're moving forward. Jessica's been doing all the legwork right now. So in the very near future, it'll be in front of you to have our kind of line-by-line discussions coming up, as we would every year.
That's what I wondered, how far along are you before we can expect to, because I'd like to have as much time as possible before to see it.
Yeah.
So right now, we're in the phase where the department heads have their budgets. They're going through last year's budget, half of this year's budget, comparing and developing their requests.
Right.
So I've requested that we have that back by March the 21st, I think is the date. And so that will come back to me then. We'll start inputting that into the whole budget, see where we are. We still have to work out salaries and benefits and some of the bigger projects. We have to, know how much to put in for those bigger projects. But that's where we are at this current moment, is that they're with the department heads working on it.
We're going to have a retreat as far as the commissioners.
For the budget?
For the budget to.
We will, similar to what we did last year, we'll go through it, you'll have it, and then we'll have time to go through it before first reading. And we're on the same schedule as we were last year, first reading in May and second reading in June.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Mr. Manager, is that all for your report? Okay. Madam Recorder, next item, please.
Consent agenda, approval of meeting minutes from previous meetings, regular meeting minutes, February 11th, 2016.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, that will remain on the consent agenda without objections. So ordered. Let me say something to the audience real fast. If you wish to speak on one of these items as we enter our regular agenda, if you wish to speak on one of these items, please fill out a card like this. The recorder has one on the desk over here. I've got two now in hand that will allow you to speak on these topics on the agenda, or you can speak at the end during public comments. I encourage everyone to do so if you want to fill out a card to do so. But one thing I did want to bring to the audience's attention is the last couple of meetings we've had an outburst here or there. That can't be tolerated. We can't allow people to disrupt the meeting. The last thing we ever want to do is have to remove anyone from the audience. But that will be the case. This is a warning, and a only warning that you'll receive tonight or moving forward. So if we have an outburst moving forward, then we are going to enforce that with our deputies. All right? Appreciate your cooperation with that. Madam Recorder, next item, please.
Regular agenda, ordinance final reading establishing the Keep Lakeland Beautiful Advisory Board of the City of Lakeland, Tennessee.
Okay, I'll go to the sponsor, Commissioner Gallo. Do you have any input there? It's just final reading?
Yeah.
All right. No other input there. We've discussed this pretty thoroughly, and that will not go on consent agenda on final reading. Madam Recorder, next item.
Resolution appointing a Board of Commissioners liaison to the Keep Lakeland Beautiful Advisory Board.
Okay. This is something we usually discuss appointments at the regular meetings, so we just move past that without objection. Next item, please, Madam Recorder.
Resolution instructing the city manager and/or city attorney to obtain the necessary easements and right-of-way for the construction of New Canada Road by negotiation and/or condemnation proceedings, and authorizing the city manager to file and pursue condemnation proceedings concerning tract 29.
Okay. Now, do we have any questions about this? I know we discussed this pretty thoroughly in our with the previous commissioners. I know Commissioner Dallas knew, and you're probably pretty well informed on that. So, do you have any questions on these? You don't? Okay, to send this to the consent agenda without objection. Seeing no objections, so ordered. Madam Recorder, next item, please.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Public Financial Management Incorporated for financial advisory services.
Okay. Mr. Manager.
As you know, we've contracted with PFM in the past for various financial studies and needs. We are recommending we do so again, and this is for planning purposes. We're entering a planning phase not just for this year's budget, but probably the next 5 years or so to identify capital needs, the best way to pay for these capital needs. Along with that, we'd also be looking at debt management policy and fund balance policy specifically, probably some administrative procedures. Again, this is strictly for planning purposes. It gives information and data available moving forward as we plan for our midterm capital needs. So I recommend to enter into this contract with PFM.
Okay. Any questions, comments, Commissioners?
The only question I really do have is, they have a retaining fee, which is normal, but does that include just regular calls, say you have a call, if it's nothing extraordinary and there's not any big new projects, then is all that included in the
Yes.
contract?
Okay. I'm going to go to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's a 30-day termination period also at any time.
Yeah.
So, that's it.
I have a citizen that wants to ask specific questions that are related to what Commissioner Gallick just brought up. Lou Melton, if you would come up, just give your address for the record, please.
Melton, 9584 Pine Point Drive. My question is about hiring PFM. The last time we hired them, it was for a $50 million bond. They charged us $9,900 just for the consultation fee. Of course, they received quite a bit of money for closing costs and commissions. I want to know, what is the exact goal here? You said it's for planning purposes and for like a 5-year capital improvement plan. Is it for refinancing the loans that we haven't even made a note on? You know, my understanding is we have like 2 major loans, outstanding loans here. What is the goal of the consultation fee? What do you expect the consultation fee to be?
Okay. Well, and we've spoken a little bit about it over the last several weeks. We have a lot of projects that we're juggling in the air. One would be the fire station, moving forward on private fire station. One would be New Canada Road, Puff and Puff. We just had the middle school. There's some other projects and things that would be on that would make that capital list. And this is really about putting together a long-term capital, a long-range capital plan for the city. So we can put a timeline with what, so people don't feel like they're caught off guard, they've never heard of this. And, a lot of what we heard in the school thing is, hey, we've never heard of this, it's going on us, we don't have time to really digest it and all that. Put together a long-range capital plan. Where PFM comes in that is, this is really what they do. They look at, your finances and tell you, based on, growth rates and things like that, this is when you can look at or expect to be able to accomplish this long-range goal. And so that's kind of what we're doing, just a long-range capital plan. And I don't know exactly what else were you asking?
My question was it for refinance? Yeah, what's the cost of it, and is it for refinancing?
Have we gotten, and this is our initial presentation on this, so what's the estimated cost on this? Is it going to be close to what we saw with the school finance, or?
The base contract cost is $3,000 per quarter. And that has an retainer to work through these planning policies. Recommendations might come out of that for refinancing. I think part of it is, as far as the planning purpose and looking at how we can most efficiently take down our debt, be a key part of this.
Yeah. And
how and when. So we have a recommendation to come out. At this point, the planning is the initial step for sure.
So quarterly, how many hours do they expect to dedicate it? How many hours do they expect to dedicate in that 3 quarters? I mean, are there provisions in that agreement to allow them to charge more if they, do we know?
There are not provisions there to allow them to charge more for the policy development, for consultation,
Okay.
and things like that. If there was a particular project, there was a debt issuance, obviously.
Right.
That's
I got you.
different. But model projections, model creation, things like that is all included.
All included, okay, gotcha. All right.
So the projected goal is they come in once every quarter, is that what you're saying?
Do what, I'm
The
sorry.
projected goal is they come in once every quarter, is that what you're saying, or?
We're
how are
not
we
going
get this
to, we're not
done?
going to continue this indefinitely, it's a project, right? And that's what I intended, was that we get a long-range plan out of them, that we receive a product that says, okay, this is what your growth rate looks like, this is, your revenues, your expenses, your fund balance, and this is what you can expect to do, at this time. And so that's kind of what I was looking at, is that's the product we're getting, right?
Yes, and we'll use it as much as necessary to achieve that.
Okay, all right.
Plan and policies.
And it, really, the reason you go in contract is, that the level, even if you had that level of expertise in the city, the time that you dedicate to that would be tremendous, and it'd be expensive to have, that level of expertise in-house. And so this contracting these sort of things out for a city our size is necessary. Their experience, the resources they have to draw from, we found them to be very accurate and even conservative figures on the school deal. So it came out better than what we thought. And so, this is what they do. And so we're trying to get a firm in here that's going to provide us a good product to make solid decisions off of. And, it's important when you're talking about
Just
planning.
needed a goal of when we expect to have this then.
Right.
We're just gonna start now, we're asking for approval now, correct? And then how long do you anticipate before they'll give us the report?
Should this take longer than 90 days? I mean,
I would assume so. I mean,
well, let's find out.
I think part of the idea here is more than creating one spreadsheet. The idea was multiple policy developments. One of the things that has to be done that was part of the debt issuance already was that the city planned and represented that they would create a debt management policy, a fund balance policy. Both of those they will facilitate the creation of both of those. Not out of thin air, rather based on the city's finances, projections, and things like that. So it will be somewhat of an ongoing relationship in that how long it lasts, that's certainly up to the board. The idea in my conversations with Commissioner Roman, who's not here, along with some of the folks at PFM, is that they will provide data and tools to this board to make projections going forward about when, is it smart to pay debt off early, is it smart to keep money in the bank? Is it when, if you have the fire issue, when will that be affordable? When will you be able to make certain decisions, make projections so that you
We'll
know
be able to
that
use them in the meeting, but for right now, I mean, we're talking about, reality is we're talking about a couple of policies, you have debt management policy, whatever, which we've spoken about several times in the city needs, but, and a long-range plan. So, I mean, that's something that, I've been a part of one of the bodies, and, it didn't take 6 months or a year.
Sure.
So I think reality
I would
is,
anticipate those policies coming.
we need to answer those questions before we vote. I mean, we need to answer those questions before we vote. And either I could speak with PFM by phone directly and ask them these questions and get the answers and relay it to commissioners, so they can come in and speak at the next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Maybe a good idea for them to come in at the next meeting and speak to us about that.
Sure.
We just need to know that we're getting the product we expect in a timely manner, and there's not just an open-ended date here where they can just continue to build up, their charges.
Sure.
And I don't think they're that kind of company either.
I think
they're,
as Jim would likely agree that they have been exceptionally available with their time and resources for the city when they haven't been under contract.
and I don't think
I don't sense that.
I don't think they would do
But
that, but it's kind
Yeah, I'll be
of,
happy.
we owe it to our constituents. We owe these answers to our constituents, and so they're not unreasonable, and we need to know. We can relay that to them, so.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. I don't think I have anybody else on that one. Any other questions, comments, questions? All right, this one will not go on the consent agenda. We'll need to see if we can get PFM here for that in the next meeting. Either that, I mean, they could even conference in. I don't think there's any magic in them being here. They could conference in on the meeting if they can't physically be here. That might be an option. Okay, Madam Reporter, next item, please.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a residential subdivision development contract with TLV LLC for a 20-lot subdivision to be known as Oakwood Grove Subdivision Phase 1.
Hey, Emily,
Emily Harrell, city engineer. Oakwood Grove subdivision phase 1, would like, I'm presenting their development contract, to be approved. The development fees associated with this development, total due is $110,068.24, of which $62,000 goes to the sewer fund, $48,068.24 to the general fund. There will also be a security collected for public improvements of $144,316.74. These securities, as I'll remind you, are reimbursed once these improvements are installed and accepted. This subdivision, just a little background, it's a total of 156 lots, single-family residential development. It's 97 acres east of the Grove. The main entrance will be off of Chambers Chapel Road. This first phase is actually connects to Maple Walk Drive, but we will restrict access, construction access on Maple Walk. Unless there is some unforeseen circumstance, they will not be able to use Maple Walk as the construction area.
Where will they come in?
Chambers Chapel.
Okay.
There is a farm entrance, I guess, off of Chambers Chapel,
That's
but they will
great.
use Chambers Chapel. Unless we run into some weather problems, we sort of discussed this with the engineers and developers, where they could not physically get a concrete truck in maybe to pour a curb, and that would only be a day or two, minimal impact. But for the most part, it'll be gated and locked, and no access will be allowed without prior approval from me. So I know that was one big concern. The first phase is 20 lots. It's primarily putting in the infrastructure for the 20 lots, and then they will also be grading and clearing for phases 1 through 5. Phase 2 is scheduled to be presented within 30 days or so. So they'll be moving forward with that. That actually connects to Chambers Chapel. Are there any questions about the development?
Commissioner? Seeing none, is it okay to place this on the consent agenda? I think we're familiar with it. All right, no objection, so ordered. Madam Reporter, next item.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Delta Lawn and Landscaping for mowing services.
Okay. Let's have a little presentation on this, who we are. All right.
Emily Harrell, city engineer again. We bid out mowing services. Typically, in the past, we've done primarily the right-of-way for our roads. This time we included our parks and some other miscellaneous properties like the sewer treatment plant. We have 2 sewer easements that we've been bush hogging and different basins. So we did it on March 1st. The low bid was Delta Lawn and Landscaping, $54,900. The reason why we included parks and our sewer facilities is because of our limited staff. The 2 parks guys, primarily that's all they do during the summer is mow. They don't have time to do any other type of park maintenance, and we recognize that there's a need for them to do other types of maintenance at our parks, as well as set up for sports facilities, striking and things like that. So as far as the wastewater end, we're limited resources there as well. We're looking to take on some more responsibilities at our treatment plant. So we need them to be able to be dedicated to our sewer facilities rather than mowing. So are there any questions?
I've got a couple.
Okay.
Go ahead. Commissioner Plum?
Let me go here, thank you. I noticed that there's a very large difference in the bids. I mean, I think one bid is about $250,000.
Yes, that one stands out.
I mean,
I'm
Mow with gold.
I'm I'm not sure I can explain why that bid is so high.
Yeah.
There were two bids at 76,000, so, I mean, that looks like sort of the median. We saw the same instance happen the last time it was bid when it was just right of way. They were in the $30,000 to $40,000 range, and the low bid was actually 18,000. I reviewed the bid. It is right. I mean, it's total right. I've talked to the contractor. He's comfortable with his pricing. So, I have no reason to think.
Presentation to something like this, do they actually, I mean, do they just give you a price, or they show you their, I mean, or they show pictures of their equipment, or how they do it, or? I
Yeah,
mean, what's the procedure?
okay.
To pick one of them?
Okay, they do have to provide me with a list of equipment, which he's gonna get that to me before next week's meeting. So we'll review, the types of equipment, the age of the equipment, the hours that are on the equipment, to make sure that they have enough equipment to handle this work. The way it was bid, it's all unit price, so he gave us a price for each individual park, roadway, treatment plant, so they're all unit prices, and that gives us the flexibility to add or delete, locations as we need to. Now, this company has done work for us in the past. He did, from what I understand, he did some work on the medians. Did they do the sod? Is that right?
They did the,
Removal, they did the removal, and I think they've also done some work at Ice Park.
that's
Is
correct.
that correct? So,
Yeah, they did the light pole in Ash Park.
yeah,
They didn't do the cutting last year?
no, they were not the contractor who did cutting last
So,
year.
you see the guy that pulled the weeds and didn't have to? Or sprayed for the weeds and didn't have to? Okay.
So,
So you have noticed.
so when do the cuttings start?
As soon as we get the contract approved, it could start, it's up to our discretion. The contract is good for a year, so it will start from execution of the contract for 1 year, and then it's got 2 one-year renewable options that have been mutually agreed on between the
So what do
city.
you guys think as far as when do you think that, or when are you suggesting that we start?
It will probably be towards the end of March. It just depends on, I mean, we'll look at the parks or the right-of-way and see when it's time for them to be cut.
Yeah, because we've never got started that early before, but and that's fine with me, because sometimes, I mean, in the past, it's been almost May before we actually.
Right, and we put enough cuts in. I compared, when I was putting this project together, I compared with Carterville, because I know they have a very aggressive program. They do, these 28 cuts a year, which is a once a week, and that gets them from March until November.
You know,
So that's what we have in the bid, and we have the liberty to add or delete from that as we want to. There are some areas that are still a 30-day, that's some of the more rural right-of-ways, and the detention facility, things like that, that aren't as much in the public eye. But the parks are on a 7-day rotation. That includes mowing, trimming, blowing off the pathways, edging,
Well, I've
trash
actually checked,
pickup.
Before they mow.
Right.
I've actually checked on a couple of the crews, like for Carterville and Bartlett, to see how they're doing, how they clean it up.
Right.
And I can tell you that both cities, it looks great, you know,
Yes.
they do a great job. So I'm just hoping that we'll get kind of a cleanup to where they actually clean up. And I've talked to Zena about this, you know, he's reassuring me that they're gonna clean up and vacuum this stuff all, where in the past, they just blow the grass everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
They're required to, I mean, once they complete their work, if it's not approved by us, if there are things that we need them to fix that weren't done properly, then they're required to fix that within a certain time period.
in this contract, what kind of an out do we have as far as like there after the first cutting? So we can say like, these guys are terrible, you know, so we wanna
There
use
is-
somebody else.
Yes, in the agreement, there is an out, I think it's a 30-day notice. I have to look and see, but there is an out for both, for us and for the contractor. That if we're not pleased with their work, then we can give them a notice and be out of the contract.
Well, can we get something from you guys, for the city to bring back to the BOC after say the first cutting, where you guys have actually gone out there checked everything out and said, hey, I think they were doing okay, or
Yeah, so just a report back.
just report
On
back to us that,
Sure.
on what you guys think, or how they're doing.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right.
Commissioner?
You said that they provided cost by park. So how does the park quotes compare to the labor of the city workers?
I have not compared that. That is a good question. But I have not compared,
Well, that would, I understand, but we should compare that before we make any decision, because that's, I mean, labor, you should look at that.
right, yes. And I can pull the salaries and benefits of those employees and compare them. I have no doubt that it would probably be cheaper contracting it out, but I can compare that before the next meeting.
And this is not the same company that did it last year, right?
No, it is not. Synergy was the company.
And they're not, are they spraying stuff? Because last year they sprayed stuff to make it not grow.
No, the contract reads that they are not allowed to spray anywhere. I did make an exception inside of the sewer lift station fences. That it's mostly gravel, so they can spray inside there, but that's the only location. They cannot spray along fence lines, they can't spray anywhere at all, except inside of those sewer pump stations that are fenced.
Okay.
This includes edging.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry.
how about weeds? I mean, do they do, like in areas that are high, highly visible?
As far as weeding like landscape areas,
Yeah.
that wasn't included, but it is something that, could be added on. This was primarily a mowing contract, yeah.
We do have the contract with Herb Systems that does all our spraying citywide. So if there are areas we need to add on, get some good add on.
So like the medians, now that they're sodded,
Yeah, that,
you want
those
to
are
make sure that
included.
they don't have,
Right.
they're not filled with weeds.
Right.
So-
Yeah, meetings are included in our current contract with Herb Systems.
Okay.
Are we adding that on, as you say? or-
They've already in it.
I couldn't hear
They're in
what
the
that-
contract.
Yeah, the spraying's covered.
The spraying is covered by purpose
Spraying
systems
for,
for the medians.
it is covered?
Yes, in a different contract. With this, we have a spray contractor. Purpose Systems sprays, we're under a current contract with them to spray right-of-ways and the medians. And so that's covered under them.
Okay.
In 28 days, right? Or 28 mowings on most areas.
Most, yeah,
High-
on the,
high-
on the 7-day-a-week, we put in 28, and then on the 30 days, we put in six cycles. So that covers.
How does it compare to last year on the pricing?
Last year, Synergy came in at 18,000 some odd dollars. Now the majority of them came in at 38 to 42, I think was the range of the other bids that came in. But that was just for right-of-way. That did not include the parks. And in talking to these contractors, parks was really a big thing to tack on. So I felt like I estimated that the prices would probably come in around 60 to 70,000. And so most of them fell in there, and they were a little lower, actually. Delta Lawn was a little lower than what I anticipated.
I was just curious as to apples, like
Right.
taking what we had last year compared to this year, if it was
Right.
comparable or if it was less.
Well, now I think on his bid on the right-of-way, it was pretty comparable to, it was around 18 to 20,000. And then the parks is the remaining.
Then that's good, because that's more
Right.
mows, because last year we had like once a month mowing.
Yeah, this
Right.
is a very different contract, and there's something last year, we had to actually call them out and add cuts as the year went on. We had prominent areas of the city that weren't cut often enough. So this one's been very thoroughly constructed, so it's going to result in a much better look for the city.
And just include 64?
No, 64 is TDOT. That's their right-of-way, so we do not.
They cut one time last year on 64.
Well, we can call them and request for them to cut more often, but that is their maintenance responsibility. We'll cut to 64, but we do not cut along 64.
Yeah, it was, I think it was July, or at least July, before they cut 64. I mean, the weeds were, they were pretty tall.
Yeah, I can call the office in Arlington and request that they be cut more frequently
Okay, good.
and see if that helps.
All right.
And then could you have the numbers for the comparison on the parks at the next meeting. Thank you.
And let me ask something. We have 3 people currently working full-time in the sewer treatment plant.
Correct.
When you're talking about these 2 people that were working mowing parks during the summertime, working at the treatment plant as well? Or total? Is that what I heard? What were we talking about them being in sewer?
The wastewater guys, they
Wastewater.
cut, well, sewer, they cut their own grass at the treatment plant and bush hog behind it and cut the easements and they cut, well, weeding around the lift station. So they've been managing that, those mowing services, while Parks has been doing primarily parks. That's why I referenced both departments, because they're both performing mowing services and really the sewer guys shouldn't be mowing, period. They should only be working on collections and the treatment plant.
What about the parks guys? Because I understood those 2 guys, I mean, that's what they do is maintenance.
Right.
really.
Right, and they're going to be used, Robbie's going to utilize them in other maintenance activities at the park, as well as setting up sports facilities and things like that. He has a lot of things that haven't been getting done because that's all they do is mow. And they're actually on a 2-week cycle, whereas this is a 1-week cycle.
Okay. I'd like to find out some of the things that aren't getting done. And, what we're talking about here is essentially adding personnel. It's contracted personnel, but we're adding personnel. So I'd like to hear a little more justification while we have 2 maintenance guys at the park that now can't do maintenance. And sometimes you wear multiple hats in a city this size. And so asking people to, mow their area or maintain their area, is not, maybe too much to ask. I've heard some people say, it's too many people to have 3 or 4 down at that sewer treatment plant. I don't believe 3 is too many. I think 4 may be getting close, but 3 is probably appropriate. But I certainly don't know that it's killing them to mow the lawn down there.
No, but we're looking at taking on additional responsibilities, like we'd like to bring some of the testing in-house. We pay a pretty good bill to a testing lab, and some of the testing we could perform in-house. And
I thought they got a level 3. I thought we were doing that, or wasn't it?
Not for testing.
Not testing.
Yeah, we have to do the testing out.
Okay.
But they maintain all the collection facilities as well, and we have 18 lift stations that they can maintain.
You've got to have a certification to do the testing in-house. So what are we looking like as far as our people testing, certification, stuff like that? I mean, that's going to play a role. I mean, if we have no one here that passes the test, we don't have a certified individual to do it in-house, and then we're contracting out the lawn service.
Well, we do as far as the testing of the wastewater plant, the testing that we're talking about bringing in-house does not require a certified lab. We're bringing some of the testing, not all of the testing. So the testing that we're looking at bringing in does not require anything above the licenses that they have. We have 2 licenses. They have operator's license, but they don't carry the license necessarily at the plant. But they have the certification to bring in some testing that's not necessarily required of certified by the state.
Yeah, I wonder how much work that is that justifies contracting out another.
Yeah, we can bring next week, more detailed discussion of maintenance tasks. There's more of this testing.
Yeah, I mean, because you gotta justify to me, why are we contracting out part of the responsibility to bring in partial testing of this water? I don't know.
I'm pretty confident.
Maybe, yeah, it may be.
And I would also like to know what Robbie needs the 2 guys that mowed.
Yes,
to
that'd be
do.
part of it.
Yeah, we'll get a list together of the other tasks that Robbie has for the 2 parks personnel.
Okay. All right, that will not go on the consent agenda. Madam Recorder, next item, please.
Ordinance first reading, amending certain portions of Title 14 zoning and land use control, Chapter 4 signs of the City of Lakeland's municipal code pertaining to but not limited to sign zones, temporary signage, and content neutrality.
Okay. This is the signed ordinance that's back. Go ahead, Tom, you have the floor.
Tom I'm planning director. Yes, I'm back with the 56-page amendment. As you may recall from last month, you opted to table this item to address a few questions that I was not prepared to answer at that time. I did follow up that meeting with an email to each of you and address some of those, and I hope I address those to your satisfaction. If I can broad brush this ordinance in terms of what it's trying to do, we are looking at a major revision. In essence, we've established sign zones in the I-40 and the Highway 64 corridor, allowing for taller signs in those areas, still staying with the monument type structure. One of your questions last time when we talked about freedom of speech was profanity, vulgar language and whatnot. We do have protections in the ordinance for that. There was a little bit of confusion in terms of window signs, and if we were taking out the 25% and just doing 6 square feet, that was an oversight on my part. It is limited to 25%, no more than 6 square feet for that sign. So again, I think one of the things that we're looking at here is some sense of proportion, in these signages, rather than, just looking at some standard fixed area requirements. Temporary signs, there's been some discussion in terms of going to temporary signs that businesses can post for 6 months. I think that was a misinterpretation of the ordinance. We have gone from 3 10-day periods and permitting periods to 6 10-day permitting periods. So it's basically doubling that in terms of some of the temporary signs. And again, in trying to simplify things a little bit, we're trying to focus on the overall impact of the sign and not so much some of the details of the sign, getting away from some of the colors and the number or the number of pieces of information. All that is detracting from what a business is trying to communicate, and what we really should be looking at is, the overall area of the sign and how big that sign's going to be, and leave it up to the business to communicate the message that they want to communicate. Any questions?
Neon signs. I objected to neon signs last night. I'm trying to figure out where it was on the ordinance, but I objected. I objected to neon signs. What are we doing about them?
They're completely prohibited except for the open signs in the business window. That's what the ordinance is now.
That's what it was last time, and I didn't like that. I don't think we ought to have neon signs, period. I don't care if they say open, closed, maybe, or undecided, whatever, I don't care. Neon sign. We got open signs that are not neon. You can place an open sign in your window, but it should not be neon. So I want to...
If I may ask a question of Jim, was that neon in terms of color or actual material? Because I don't know very many people that actually do neon signs.
No, exposed neon was.
Okay.
You're talking about the lights.
the lighted neon signs.
It says open.
Yeah, in this amendment, didn't propose any change to that, that's what it was in there already, so if I make a change to this draft, now would be the time to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, the actual business meeting would be next week, but I plan on striking that. I do not want neon lighted signs anywhere. So if you could draft a copy excluding that, then I would appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And you can give me a copy of that amended, that proposed amendment to this.
I'll try to get it out tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Are we, I know that there's a lot of information about temporary signs and and events and permits. Do we charge for that?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
What's the charge?
$30, I believe.
And how
30 for a
long
temporary.
does it stay up?
Well, you can get a 10-day permit or a 30-day permit right now, so each permit is $30.
Which leads me to the temporary signs. I mean, I'm open, but 6 times a year seems an awful lot to me. Maybe once a quarter? I don't know. I mean, I would like to hear some feedback, maybe from Jenny or somebody that has a business, to see what their thoughts are on some kind of temporary. If it helps their business a lot, then, you know, I'm gonna lean towards it. But right now, I'm thinking, why do they need 6 times a year?
I can't address that exactly. I do know from talking with Jenny and talking with the other chamber members that when we allow the Christmas temporary signs, that it's recorded that helps their business enormously. Now, is that a function of the sign or the time of season? I don't know. But
Yeah, I'm not disputing that, but I think it worked personally, but I can be proven wrong. But I mean, you know, once a quarter. Because if you do a holiday sign, then of course it's going to draw attention to it. You know, maybe a summer sign, maybe you know, something from January to February. But 6 seems like a little bit of overkill to me, but that's just me.
so right now we're at 3 10-day.
No, it said 6.
Well, no, I'm saying right now under
yeah.
our current regulations. So you would be proposing like 4 10-day, so 40 days versus from 30 to 40 versus from 30 to 60.
You're saying take the 30-day temporary to a 60?
Right now, this amendment is saying we now allow for 3 10-day periods. The ordinance is proposing 6 10-day periods, which would go from 30 days to 60 days. So you're proposing a 40-day. So
Again, if somebody knows that it's a business detriment, or if there's some information that I'm missing that I don't have, I'm open to it. But to me, I don't see why you have to have 6. I think 1 quarter would be fine.
Jim, can you shed any light on the rationale behind that discussion?
Is this a history test?
Yes.
My experience over the years in this, the contact I've had with businesses through meetings and other interactions, is that a temporary sign goes along with, they're easy to do, they're relatively inexpensive, they put them up and have pretty good effect. So, in fact, what we did, probably going on 6 or 7 years now, we used to have just 1 permit per year that was good for 30 days. And one thing that we heard was that, well, we understand that, but usually, you know, if we just have weekend sale, we don't want to use our entire year of sign allocation on that 1 sale. So we amended the ordinance to allow 3 10-day permits. So you're still capped at 30 days per year, but if you divide it up so you can have 3 separate sales or times. So that change was made. The discussion continued saying, well, it'd be nice if we could expand that allocation. So that's why we just doubled it for the draft purpose for discussion. So, you know, whether say that 30 goes to 60 or goes to 40, I think it's all reasonable.
Now, is there a time frame? Say a business opens and they've got 6 a year, and it opens, you know, in August. If they use 6, you know, every other week they're not, I'm being excessive, but, you know, they're doing a lot of temporary signs, whereas somebody else has a business for a year, they have to spread theirs out. So is there anything on timing?
Our interpretation currently is calendar year. The other alternative, we'd interpret it as year from the time you can't have, say, 6 or 4 within, you know, 1 year of the first permit. You could do it like that also. To prevent the situation you talked about.
I mean, I don't foresee this issue right now, but, you know, down the line, I don't want to see going out of business this week and going out of business next week, and, you know,
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that I'm thinking of. I don't think that's going to happen right now, but, you know, 10 years down the road, it might.
Another, if I could add one thing to consider also that's not included here, the current ordinance and the current draft in front of you called a temporary sign 32 square foot banner no taller than 6 feet high. Now, it could attach it to the building, but generally the ones on the ground out, you know, in front of the street, 32 square feet, 6 feet tall, which, you know, aren't very attractive in any manner. There's new signs out there now, like the flag signs that go up, that probably go, you know, 8 or 9 feet that are skinny. You know, LA Fitness puts them out there. Technically illegal, but far better looking than your typical banner. So something we could also consider is, you know, allowing different types of temporary signs. So I know the flag banners are more popular now, as long as you don't put, you know, 4 or 5 in a row. I think LA Fitness did it tastefully and illegally, but they had one by their ground sign that looked really really attractive, better than having a banner out there.
Right. One good thing about temporary signs is you don't have to, I mean, you can amend, if you start having problems, you can amend your code. They're not, you don't have a problem with something being grandfathered in and you've got an eyesore forever. It's, by the time you get it amended, the thing's gonna be gone and you can eliminate the problem, so.
I have one more thing. Since it says that you're not supposed to leave the structure of a banner sign or in the ground as permanent, could we please take those bars off of, since we're breaking our own rules?
Yes.
The steel bars at the IH Clubhouse that have been there for almost a year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a question. It's, I'll give you an example. First, the question I'll give you. There's the tile company down by Papa Murphy's, down by the Gibson's Donuts, and there's a cardboard man that's inside the door. It's a guy does info commercials on cable. His name is Vince. He's got these cable in his ears now, and it's the guy's actually like 4 or 5 feet tall. You know? Is that a sign, or I mean, that just looks like kind of sleazy to me. I don't think we should be allowed.
It is a sign, it's inside the building, and therefore it is a sign. A sign
It's a
being,
sign that's inside the business.
I'm saying that,
It's inside the business.
yes, I would define that as a sign. A sign being something that communicates a message
Well, I think
or
that's,
product.
I don't think we should be allowing anything like that. I mean,
You know,
We can't tell people what they have in their business, can you?
well, what I was going to say is, I have heard of some communities saying that if it's visible from the public right-of-way, it should be regulated. So if it's inside, but yet it's visible, then we can look at that. But right now, the way things are constructed, we do not regulate signage that's inside the building.
yeah.
And not to pick on a company, but, and I,
Well,
No action around here, but-
It's like the type business. anyway, so-
Walgreens always puts their sign just inside the window above their front door.
Yeah.
Some communities say that's an inside sign, we don't regulate it. Some say we can see it from the right of way, we regulate it.
And in retail, cardboard cutouts and stuff like that is very popular. Because they're temporary in their promotion, so.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions about the sign ordinance? Can you give me that draft for that amendment?
I'll send it to all of you.
Yeah, please send it to all of us. Thank you. Okay.
Do you want me to entertain,
Do you want him to entertain
Other
the
changes?
cardboard cutout man?
Yeah, I would, yeah. Like to see it gone.
Now, if we start, are we going to make our attorney rich if we do this?
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I would strongly caution the city about regulating signs on the interior of a business. I mean, I think we can, as Tom said, you're sort of getting up on the edge of your authority about things that are in the sight lines of the right of way. Certainly that's better. Arguably, we do have some authority there, but for signs inside of a business,
Well, shouldn't the
it's
sign,
not offensive. I'm sorry.
shouldn't the sign have something to do with the business? And what's just a picture of me and,
It probably does. I mean, it probably has some correlation. I doubt that he just put a man cardboard cutout up there.
yeah, I mean, what's the correlation?
I used to have one of those, just scared of kids.
Yeah. Our attorney's got a smile on his face. I'm against this.
I think we're probably buying ourselves a little trouble if we go down that route. That's my suspicion. Not something I've looked into recently, but
I mean, really, it is. And if we do want more retail, and a lot of times they do things like that. They might have cardboard cutout of, I don't know, maybe a Kardashian or somebody else, you know, with a display. I think that's a bit much when you go into a business and say you can't do that.
Okay.
That was kind of my point, that, start putting all these wild, if you put anything that you want to do, for the, it's kind of my point.
I know, but it's inside the business.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's like a naked lady or something, but.
Okay, all right, hopefully we won't see that. All right, any other questions, comments on the sign ordinance? We will have some amendments that will not go on the consent agenda. That would cause action, something down 64. All right, yeah.
Ordinance first reading, amending ordinance 14-205, amending Title 1-102 of the Lakeland City Code concerning the Board of Commissioners agenda format.
Okay, let me go to the sponsor on this one. Commissioner Dunn.
Well, I thought it was a very reasonable citizen request, as evidenced by the fact that we've almost gone 2 hours tonight in a work session. We do have long work sessions. We get a lot of valuable discussion and a lot of valuable input. So I feel like it's something that we absolutely need to consider because as a citizen, it is hard to sit through a long meeting waiting to make your comments. Now, I do understand that the citizen comments that go along with an agenda item would be listened to during that agenda item. So this is, are we talking about specifically discussion from citizens that are items that are not on the agenda? Correct?
Correct. We certainly, what I would envision doing is what I've seen or what I've been a part of on other boards with at the first of the meeting, just say, you know, if you would like to have input on any item on the agenda or otherwise have input, there'll be opportunities to do so at various times throughout the meeting. We allow you to speak in a public discussion and also to each agenda item that you wish to speak on. So we can allow them that, limit time. It could be a handler situation. We got some flexibility on how we can manage it, but it's absolutely what you're trying to do here is possible. So I'm in favor of it. I think it was a good recommendation by Colonel Holton, and so I think it's good. Do we have any discussion?
I'll think for it,
Yeah. Well, it's here, so we can place this on our consent agenda. Yes.
One point, is it okay where I placed it in this ordinance considered? It's after the public hearing, immediately following the public hearing?
I think
That would be an appropriate place.
I think it's fine. It at least needs to be before probably sewage commission business, you know, at least, you know, somewhere between sewage commission business and where it is right now. So if you're happy with where it is, then you could.
I agree with you because there are some people that will say, I want to come to the meeting, but what time?
Well, and we've just seen 2 citizens come in that are concerned about litter issues and things that missed Jim's presentation on the whole litter issue because they were anticipating having to sit through a long meeting and wait till the end to make their comments.
So what we could do is we could put it right before the agenda items, which I guess sewer commission business, we don't usually have any activity there, but we could put it before that, which would essentially, if there's anything on the sewer committee or any agenda item, they would speak before we heard our agenda items. That's what takes the majority of our time. But it would give it be far enough back on the agenda where we wouldn't have to worry about missing a bunch of people who may be trying to get here just after leaving work and traffic issues. So is that?
Yes.
So we're talking about before sewage commission or after sewage?
Right before the sewage commission business, just simply, if we do have
So
an
we need to
item,
do number 8.
it would be a yes.
Okay.
Okay? And so we'll make that, well, I guess we can, our new draft that we'll hear in the meeting, so we won't have to have that as an amendment. If there's consent of the body, we can just have that new draft before us with that item as number 8, and we'd shift everything above that up. All right?
And that's on the regular agenda?
On the, that would be on the, with that change, is there any objection to putting it on the consent agenda?
No.
Okay, no objection, so ordered.
Ordinance first reading, amending Title 13, Chapter 1, Property Maintenance Regulations miscellaneous, establishing responsibility for right-of-way maintenance adjacent to private property.
Okay. Jim gave a presentation. You want to give an abbreviated explanation?
Yeah, I already touched on it earlier, so this again will be the ordinance. We're working out the fine tuning the language in the ordinance, so you don't have it in front of you tonight. We will have it in front of you with your packet next week. And the reason is there are several different types of right-of-ways in the city we need to address separately, but we'll work out the language on that. The general premise is that people adjacent to a roadway will be responsible for, in this case, more than just a sidewalk, but also litter and debris collection adjacent to that property. So that's the gist of the ordinance, and again, we'll have the exact language to you next week.
Okay. I think this is another one brought forward by Colonel Holcomb. So we have 2 back-to-back, and I think they're both good suggestions. Do we have any comments, questions by Commissioners?
If they do not adhere, say you're gonna give them a notice and say, your property's got trash all over it, you need to clean it up, what if they don't do anything? Take them to court to...
Yeah, to be Judge Potter. Yeah, and in the ordinance, we specify, the way it's drafted right now, 2 different time periods. If you're going to develop a subdivision, you should have a relatively short period of time, 24 hours, 72 hours, something before, we take action. For the unoccupied properties, a little bit more time, because a lot of times you have out-of-state owners, you'll have people that aren't there, and a lot of times they're a bigger cleanup also, so that'd be more of a 10-day cleanup as opposed to, say, a 24-hour.
And what happens, because I know that, and I don't know how many times that Adam Carpet has had to go to court, or how many times we've even given them notice. But what happens if they're repetitive and it just is over and over and over again?
We just have to be more aggressive with the citations. Judge Potter would consider that with whatever his ruling is.
Now, do they fine them? Do we get any money out of it?
Typically, no, with the fines. I mean, it hurts the violator for sure, but not necessarily a benefit to the city, other than the cleanup.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the real benefit, but I'm just wondering, hey, that could be a bonus if we got it.
I can assure you the hassle of having to go to court, it's not very convenient, especially if you're busy. Yeah, right. It's not, you don't want to go down there. So, yeah, that's going to make it more effective than, $100 fine or whatever. Guarantee you. All right. We have any comments, questions on that? Any objection to sending that to the consent agenda for first reading? No objections, so ordered. Madam Reporter, next item.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to issue a request for proposals for a small area plan for affluent interchange area as recommended by the EDC.
Okay. You trying to get exercise or what?
Should have looked at the agenda before I stood up, would have stayed up here. If you watched the news last night, you saw this actually became a pretty nice little story last night. The idea behind this is that over time, we've had some discussions, in public meetings about the condition of the interchange area, and that it doesn't meet our standards, our high-quality standards, and we'd like to, it's clear what we don't like about that area. What's not as clear as a body is what we do like and what we do want to see there. So what we're recommending, and the EDC passed a recommendation on to you to put out an RFP to solicit a design firm to come out and actually do a study for the area, which would result in a land use study and also some designs on what we could see for the interchange area. We basically have four quadrants of that interchange that could use development or redevelopment, and having a plan in place that we could market to developers and other businesses would be very beneficial for us to have. So when people say, we know what you don't like, but what do you want? Well, we can show them the plan and there would be. So we're asking you to initiate, or allow me to initiate this study that will come back and have a lot of public input and end up with a vision for the interchange area.
Right. I think, it was probably said best, Chairman Floyd, school board chairman, he said, hey, we have a unique opportunity to build a city. And, we've got a small area there at the interchange, the four corners that need redevelopment. The rest of the city is pretty much rural. So we have an opportunity to build a city, and you don't want to end up with hodgepodge development, with no real continuity, no real theme. So this type of plan Okay, you're talking about putting together, and create, a seamless look at the end of the day. You might have different developers come in at different times, but the end product, the finished product is going to have, a consistent theme. And I think it's going to, I think, we have the potential of either meeting the expectations of our citizens or greatly disappointing them. And I think this is a big step towards meeting their expectations. So. Comments, questions, anything? I see none. Madam Reporter, we can place this on the consent agenda without objection. Seeing none, so ordered. Madam Reporter, next item.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a proclamation for National Nurses Week.
Yeah. Shoot, if I don't sign this, I'd be fired. I work at a hospital, so, yeah, go ahead.
And not much more to say about this. We got a request that we, acknowledge this week, so it's on the agenda to go ahead and authorize the mayor to sign the proclamation. It's attached, so you can read it, but not much more to say about that.
Questions, concerns, comments, anything? Seeing none, okay to place this on the consent agenda without objections. And so ordered. Madam Reporter, next item.
Public discussion.
I have 2 cards. The first card I got was from Tim Joyce. Tim, did he leave early?
Left.
He left. Okay. Then I have Delphine Rose. Ms. Rose, address for the record, please.
121 Harbor Point Way. I'm sorry, I missed the trash discussion. I have questions. Has there been any activity regarding T-Dot and the wall? Our property values have gone down because of it, and our way of life has changed completely and totally. The summer's coming, and we're not even going to be able to sit out on our porch. The noise is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, particularly at 2 o'clock in the morning. So my question is, has the city done anything yet about the wall with T-Dot? My next question is MLGW. What has happened with that? And of course, I'm always talking about Huff and Puff. It's extremely dangerous at night, especially because when I'm coming home, when I turn off of Canada Road onto Huff and Puff, the trucks from the highway, the lights are facing you, and the traffic on Huff and Puff coming towards you. So you don't know where to go because on both sides of you, the lights are coming at you, and you can't go anyplace because there's traffic on one side, and if you go veer to your right, you're in a ditch. My next question is, I believe I saw a rendering for the City of Lakeland sign that is supposed to go on the median on Canada Road. What I believe I saw was frightening. Why? Because I think it had a lamp or a light on the actual edifice on each side. Why? The light is supposed to come from the ground up, just like this microphone, just like it is outside. So did I see it wrong? It looked to me like the 1950s.
Okay. All right. And so the design did include lamps on it, and it's kind of a rustic look. And I personally thought it would be an attractive design, and I think the board unanimously voted for
I
it.
think the more the look that they're going at, and remember us talking, because there are no streetlights on Canada. So it would be nice if there was a little bit of light. But I think more of the look is like the lamps that they have, like the full springs and some of these subdivisions that are very nice. and ornate and rustic looking.
Yeah, they're strictly decorative, those lights. I believe the plan is to put ground lights shining up on the wall to actually light the actual sign itself. Those lights aren't intended to provide light for the sign, but just a decorative feature.
Yeah.
We don't
Is-
need to-
Isn't the purpose
Hang
to
on,
say,
hang on. 1 second. Ms. Rose. Go ahead.
As
Commissioner.
far as the walls, I mean, we're not, I mean, it's all T-dot, isn't it? I mean, even if we wanted to put the walls, we wouldn't be able to because it's something that T-dot puts up. So I don't see anything that the city actually could
But
actually do.
the TDOT study was done based, I think, on
2011?
Anyway, but, and the information that they did the study is not consistent with how it is today. I don't know that they'll change their mind,
Mhm.
but all those trees were there, and she's not the first person to complain. I've heard from a ton of people that live in the, is it the Preserve or Potters? Anyway.
Point, preserve, and all
Yeah, I
that.
mean, they said it's a nightmare, you can't even go outside because you hear all those trucks.
Herons Ridge also.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's an issue. I would say that the state would probably be open to allowing us to do it. The budget figure would be on our back and it would be heavy. Now, is it a priority of the board? That's up to the board. And if y'all want to move forward with, estimated project cost and, put that on the capital plan, that would be a part of what we're working through with PFM. If it rises to that level, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that it should, or I'm just saying what could take place. It could be on a long-range plan for the city, and, we could get just,
Well, since the study was based on something that was, 5 years ago, could we not at least request that the state come out and do an additional study based on
Right.
current
Right.
needs and
they could do,
testing?
yeah, they could do a project estimate for us, and we could place that on the long-term capital plan if that's what the board decided.
they pay for it,
But
if
if
they
they-
deem
right,
it's
if they-
necessary, and now, the other thing is.
They-
But I
would.
I think they said that they would not.
will
There's
they
no
come
plan.
back out, since the study was done 5 years ago, will they come and do a current study?
Well, I think and it's been informally discussed with them. I think what we might do is set a meeting with TDOT to make the formal ask for the study, and maybe the cost is, sure, if Lakeland wants to do the study, maybe that's the cost we bear, but who knows? But I think having a meeting first to find out what their position is. I think they're pretty clear in a letter that they wrote a while back, that they wouldn't put the wall in, but the focus is on the study, I believe.
Right.
Yeah,
So
well,
they
that's-
mean discuss the study.
And the other thing is, there is a lot of trash, now that there's no trees. Not that it was good to have trash in the tree line, but now the trash is all flowing on the road, and really, there's bare places now where there used to be a lot of trees, so.
Bill and I wrote
Hang on one
to
second.
the,
Ms. Rose, I'm going to give you another minute because you got 2 minutes and we allow 3. So if you come on up to the microphone and speak.
Bill and I
can't-
did speak, it did write to TDOT, and we got a letter from them, Jim is well aware of it, and an 18-page report, everything based on 2011, and I was in no way, shape, or form referring to the city to pay for it. I felt that the city needed to contact TDOT based on a 2011 survey.
That's what
Yeah,
I'd like
I
to.
figure we can do that. Certainly would be a problem to do that, Jim. If you'll just keep us posted on that, that'd be fine.
The other thing, that you might mention that to MLGW too. I mean, not that they're gonna take care of anything, but they cut down all those trees, and we didn't have a lot of those issues before they cut down the trees. So, I mean, maybe they could help us put pressure on TDOT.
And the other thing that's available with the MLG&W part of the whole thing is, they removed all the trees here. They have a program called Trade a Tree. They'll take trees down, they'll put new trees up in their place, different types of trees, slower growing, lower growing, and that could be something we'd look at with them also. In certain locations, that may be one of them, where you get some vegetation back in along that.
Why don't we check on those simultaneously and see
Yeah.
if there's anything they can do, even like a decorative vegetation, evergreen or something that would have greenery on it year-round, and there'd be serve as a sound deadener. That may be a good, it seems like it might be even more appealing, than what we have there now. We've got stumps and trash. So. Okay, David Abbott. Address for the record, please.
David Abbott, sorry, I'm not going long enough. David Abbott, 3408 Meadows Cove. So I didn't want to get back up here. The only thing, Michelle and whoever is for moving the time forward, so thank you. So I'll still cover these, simple thing probably, but based on the way the last meeting went, I'm kind of forced to come up here and use my 3 minutes again to kind of clarify some other things. And so it's not a dialogue, as the mayor so pointed out to me, that this is not a dialogue, David, you've had your time. And so I sit back there and go, hey, but what you're saying is not true, basically, and I'll point that out. But there's some things that were said after I had my time, and it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll wait till next month and I get 3 more minutes. Again, I was trying to rush through a lot of stuff I wanted to get out, and so it was kind of rushed. And so what really happened was, I just wanted to point out that it seems there was an effort to say a clean audit. God, I hate to bring that up again, because nobody wants to hear about this, right? But that's what's happened. Every audit that I went back in Lakeland's history, every audit you've gotten was clean as far back as I could see. I went back quite a ways back. And so there was not, and Sherry, I wish you were here last time to figure this out, because you had said, to the auditor that was up here, and that's what I was trying to address, was it's rare and unusual to get a clean audit. And that's accountant is inactive again. You had asked what's my status as an accountant. I'm inactive. My CPA license is inactive because I don't do public accounting. I don't keep up with CPEs and that kind of thing so that I can participate in public accounting, but nonetheless, my certificate is just as valid as anybody's. So you had that question afterwards. But rare and unusual is not the case. It's not. Enron, up to the fall of Enron, got clean audits every time. So, it doesn't indicate anything, okay? It just means that the proper controls were in place. And I was erred on that. Yes, I did not give you credit for having proper controls, okay? And so, yeah, it's good. But other than that, it doesn't say the city's financially strong or weak, and that's my whole point. And I'll leave it at that. Jessica confirmed it at the end. She said exactly what I said, but you didn't contest her when she said it. So, go figure. So anyway, that's all I was coming up here saying. Now, the thing that was totally false is that you said, David, in public media, you were talking about, sunshine laws. Where did that come from, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, where did that come from? I have never mentioned in public meetings sunshine laws. Yet you get to say it, and you get to shut me up, and nobody gets contested until I come back here for 3 more minutes. I would love the proof. Also, I would love an apology, because that did not happen. Just didn't happen. Nobody,
Wrap it up. You got it.
I'm done.
Thank you, David. If you'll recall, I did not, I specifically referred to the people who made those comments online, not you. I did not say you. I said the people on the line.
Watch the video.
The other thing, as far as findings in our audit, the history of findings in our audit, Jessica, in the past, I know there was an embezzlement issue of a pretty sizable amount of money because there weren't proper controls in place at City Hall. I assume, and I believe I recall, in that audit following that there were findings, right?
And a finding is different than an opinion. So you can have a certain type of opinion and still have findings.
Okay, so not every audit the city has ever had has been clean, as was suggested, not suggested, as what was said tonight. So what Mr. Abbott said is incorrect, right? I mean, we've had findings.
We have that findings.
All right. Thank you. Arnie Holton. Just address for the record, please.
Holton, 10103 Goodwood, Oak Drive.
for your time. Just want to warn you, my doctor prescribed some steroids for pain in the neck that I'm having. It goes all the way down my butt and around into my upper thigh.
That's not
She
bad.
said that those steroids might make me agitated, so I'm just warning you, okay? I told my wife that, and she said, you need to go somewhere else. For some, less than the attorney fees, I can be hired to kidnap signs that you don't like and destroy them. So, just want y'all to know. Advertising, thanks. I wish I could kidnap the two tallest man-made structures, which are signs at exit 20, two huge eyesores that, you know, along with the only two signs on I-40 that you see either driving east or west is a fireworks billboard sign. Well, that's classy. You know, not like our motto that has the word quality in it, which is the key word, and is associated to our community values of prosperity, longevity, and posterity. I went ahead and defined them for you. You can put that in the paper now. I think that if we are going to be the vision that you, Mr. Mayor, alluded to 2 years ago at February 2014 Leadership Lakeland meeting, where you spoke of the possibility of Lakeland becoming an elite city, the elite city of West Tennessee. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And I think that vision, if it is still current, is consistent with those core values that I just mentioned, as well as the word quality. And I guess my 3 minutes are up.
No, sir. I'm sorry, my daughter was waving at me as she
Okay.
was walking out, so I was waving at my 9-year-old.
One last thing. I did some research on the MLGW website. You know, they got 7 VPs, they got 3 directors of Wolf, and Lollygag that they probably pay too much to. Well, one of those directors is the guy that keeps up with statistics relating to customer service. And I just want to, and you're free to go on to the website and look at it for yourself. After I got up of laughter over the fact that over 3 of the 4 most recent quarters, they've gotten 100% customer satisfaction, and the 4th one of those was above, it was like 92% or something like that. And I just went, why GBSM? You know, can't say all the words on it, you know, for that acronym. But and by the way, their goal's only 90%, so they're exceeding expectations according to their own report card that they go to the CEO and president and report out on. They're just doing great. Pat myself on the back and get that paycheck and do the Heisman move on Lakeland, Arlington, Bartlett, you know, take the Bartlett mayor, you know. So anyway, thanks for your time.
Yep.
This is a new record for me.
Right.
Less than 5 minutes, I think.
Colonel Holcomb, I think Jim had a good update at the first of the meeting that we can review after the meeting's over with you on.
I reviewed that before the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
With you
We have
briefed him on that? Okay. Then also, were you referring to the McDonald's sign? I'm sure that expires next year, I
I
believe.
think it's talking about the mall sign.
The mall sign.
Well, great. And by the way,
The
that's,
tallest one is the McDonald's sign. You know,
that's probably the lowest quality McDonald's I've ever been in.
Yeah.
If it were in Memphis, I would be using my concealed carry permit and carrying my pistol with me.
We were talking about that the other day.
The only McDonald's I've ever been in that was more dangerous was in Miami, and it had bars on the windows. So, anyway,
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I hope I entertained you a little bit.
Well, yeah, you did, as always.
Okay.
All right. Commissioners, we have any other items come before the committee? The commission, seeing none. We have a motion to adjourn. Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Have a second, without objection. So ordered. We are adjourned.
Good.